This is the Pipeline Podcast, where you'll get to know the next generation of Columbus Blue Jackets. Let's see who's coming down the pipeline today with your host, Dylan Tyrer.
So glad to be back for another edition of the Pipeline Podcast. I know I say it every single week that, I'm so eager for this week's episode, so excited to get to know this Blue Jackets prospect. But this week, I truly am really excited to get to know Guillaume Richard because he truthfully is one of the only Blue Jackets prospects I don't know a whole lot about. I really didn't know anything about Guillaume Richard other than the very basics before talking to both he and Blue Jackets Director of Player Personnel, Chris Clark, who we get to hear from a little bit later in this edition of the Pipeline Podcast. But if you're unaware of who Guillaume Richard is, he's a 6'2", 175-pound left shot defenseman, 18 years old, from the Montreal area. The Blue Jackets selected him in this past summer's 2021 Nhl Entry Draft in the 4th round, 101st overall. This is a guy that some experts had going in the 2nd round, the 3rd round, but the Blue Jackets got him in the 4th round, and he's proving why in his freshman season at number 17 ranked Providence College. Great start to his college career at just 18 years old. In 30 games this season, Richard is second among Providence defensemen with 13 points, 2 goals, 11 assists for 13 points so far this season. So he's a guy that, like I said, is very young in his college career because oftentimes freshmen in college, when it comes to hockey, are sometimes 19, 20, 21 years old the way things shake out. But Guillaume Richard, a true freshman at 18 years old, and he's holding his own against physically mature men playing college hockey right now, and that's a great sign for the Blue Jackets. He's billed as a defensive defenseman, a guy that really has his head on a swivel, can break up plays, but there's some offense in there as well, and we're going to hear about that from both Guillaume and Chris Clark. The offense is really that next step to come out of Guillaume Richard's game. So a very intriguing prospect for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And before we get into the interview, I just want to say I was completely impressed with his maturity. This guy is an absolute pro at 18 years old. So how about we get to know him right now? Blue Jackets prospect Guillaume Richard. All right, Guillaume, let's get started with something simple. How you got into the game of hockey. Obviously, you're a Canadian kid. Very easy for the youth in Canada to start playing hockey. But how did it all begin for you?
I think I started with my dad. Obviously, he introduced me to hockey when I was younger. I started skating, I think, around 3 years old. Started playing games when I was 4. And I remember my dad was always taking me to the games, and I would come home, and then he would be tired from coaching our team and stuff. And then I would play with my mom downstairs in the basement, some more hockey or sometimes baseball or football. So my life pretty much revolved around sports for most of my life right now. And obviously I'm really thankful for my parents, and that's how I pretty much got into hockey.
What other sports did you play growing up?
I played soccer a lot up until I was probably 12 or 13 years old. And I obviously put all my efforts in hockey. And then I now play golf, tennis, I would say. I played baseball a year. Wasn't quite my sport, a little too slow for me. But so I touched a little bit of everything. I think it's great that I did that, learning from other sports that just can bring something in my bag in hockey.
So you mentioned there that you gave up some of the other sports around 12, 13 years old. Was it at that point that you realized, I'm pretty good at hockey and I might be able to go somewhere with this? Or was it maybe a little bit after that and you just stopped and focused on hockey because you loved it so much at that point?
Yeah, I think it was just in my schedule. Hockey was so demanding that I didn't, with school and stuff, I didn't quite have the time to do everything. I would get after school at home around like 4, and then sometimes I'd have like a soccer practice at like late nights. So I would get kind of tired and exhausted at the end of the week. So that's when I kind of figured out that I wanted to pursue hockey more than other sports. So I would say just the balance of my schedule kind of like put everything towards hockey and just keep moving forward with that.
Did you play defense from the start, or was that something you kind of found your way to eventually?
No, I actually played forward. My dad's a forward. So obviously when I started, I played forward center for most of like my minor hockey. I think the first time I played defense. I was in the one hockey tournament in Philadelphia, and we were missing a defenseman. I think I was about 9 or 10 years old, and then I kind of fell in love with how different the game looks from back there, and then from that point on, I kind of like stuck with defense, and I think I did a fairly good job at the start, so I kind of stuck with that, and I'm glad I did because I love it back there.
Were there different defensemen, or maybe not defensemen, maybe forwards, goaltenders, whatever, that you looked up to at that point and tried to model your game after a little bit, whether they were minor league players, NHL players, anything?
Yeah, well, obviously when I was younger, I looked up to Sidney Crosby. I think it was the idol of pretty much all the younger guys. And then I think the first defenseman that I looked towards to when I was watching games was probably Drew Doughty. I really loved his game at first. Maybe a little different style than me, a little bit more physical and stuff now, but that's probably the one defenseman that I started to look up to when I really watched the game closely when I was younger.
Is that still a player that you watch nowadays? He's obviously having a great season this year. There may be some other guys that you look at. I know Cale Makar is a favorite of defensemen your age that I've talked to. He's probably in there too for you, right?
Oh yeah, I mean what he's doing out there, especially in the NHL, such a young age, is quite impressive. And obviously, I look to learn some stuff from him. And obviously, every defenseman in the NHL has something to bring. So you need to look at every defenseman and what they offer to the team and how they compete and stuff. So I think it's really good to just watch some games.
Going back a little bit, how old were you when you realized, yeah, I'm a good hockey player and I think I could do something with this, whether it was going to college, whether it was playing major, junior, being drafted, things like that? How old were you when you figured all that out?
I would say probably 1 or 2 years before my major junior draft. Obviously in Quebec, the way to go normally is major junior. So when you play youth hockey there, it's kind of a big step, and like 2 years before the draft, people start talking about you. Oh, you should be maybe in the top 10 of the draft and stuff. So, and then my midget AAA year, my first year, I got a good season, and then I went seventh overall in the Q draft. So that's kind of where you're like, well, like seventh overall in Quebec, that's pretty good. So maybe I got a shot, but you also never know. To make it the show, you have to be good, you have to be lucky, you have to, all sorts of things need to come together. So I'm in a good spot right now, but I need to keep working and putting on the effort, and we'll see how it goes.
You mentioned there that, the normal path to playing pro hockey when you're in Canada is playing in the CHL, whether it's the OHL, QMJHL, like you got drafted into, WHL. So how did you end up at Providence? Why did you choose to go the college route?
I think for me, I'm obviously like a two-way defenseman, and I'm tall, but I'm pretty small. I don't weigh a lot, and I think I need those extra years. Just we train like at least 2 times, sometimes 3 times a week here, even in season. I think it's going to be great for my path, just to continue putting on some muscle mass. And then obviously, I think the NCAA is one of the best league to play in, and just keep growing your game and just compete every day. It's a hard schedule balancing school and hockey, but I love it, and I have nothing to say like bad about being in Providence. I love it here, and I'm really happy with my decision to come here.
Well, let me ask you about this season then, because it's pretty rare that 18-year-olds are true freshmen when it comes to college hockey. Usually the guys are 19, 20, even sometimes 21 years old because they're playing in the USHL or things like that, and it takes a couple of years. But you're 18 years old as a true freshman at Providence right now, and you're playing against men. That's you talked about it right there, and that's one of the reasons that a lot of people do choose to go to college. They play a different schedule than major junior. It's not as many games, but you get more practice time, more time in the weight room, and you're also playing against more physically mature competition. So before you've really had that big opportunity to get into the weight room, over the summer and into next season and even beyond that, you've had a good season playing against men. So do you feel like your game is only going to continue to just get better and better the stronger that you get?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, like last season, the USHL was with COVID and stuff was kind of a tough year for me. A good year, but still a little bit under my expectations. I would say. And then coming in this year, I really wanted to have a good start. I had a great summer training at home and then a month here. So that was great. And then honestly, I didn't really know what to expect. I was looking at our roster and you can see like a lot of older guys, like 22, 23, 24, 25 years old. And I'm like coming here as an 18-year-old. So it's kind of impressive at first. But I think I was just ready to play from the first game on. And then like my confidence keep growing as the game moved along. And we're now, I can't believe we're now like, we have 5 games left. It's been so fast, especially in college. You just play around 35 games. I had a great year and hopefully we can still make some progress towards the end of the year and in the playoffs. And yeah, I think everything came together for me.
What was your first impression of college hockey? And I guess what's been your biggest takeaway this first season, making that transition from playing minor hockey and now you're here playing against men essentially?
Yeah, well, obviously you had Providence, the installations that we have for working out, and then just like coming here at the rink every day is just incredible. The way we're treated. We don't miss anything. We have food and stuff. We have everything to become the professional player that we want to be. Also, like the game, the pace of the game is really fast. You don't have a lot of time to think, and I think that's just good for me as a defenseman. Keep improving that, and just keep improving and just making my way up.
When it comes to skills on the ice, skating, things like that, when you got to Providence, what was the biggest thing that you wanted to work on this season to improve it?
I think for me, sometimes I get like puck watching a little bit and just like stop moving my feet. So that was something I can't do anymore because the guys are just so fast. So just like keep skating to retrieve puck. Also like moving my head all the time because obviously the guys are coming so fast. You don't have a lot of time to think. So I think those were the 2 aspects that I needed to improve really fast. And then obviously once you're in a couple games, like the game slows down. So and then it's just like playing the way I'm capable of.
What about things that you want to work on going into next season? Because everything that I've heard about you is your build is a terrific defenseman, but there's some offense in your game and probably, room to improve offensively and to even take more chances, things like that. So is that something that, you're trying to work on going forward?
Yeah, I think one of the key aspects of my game offensively would be improving my shot. I think I get a lot of chances, but sometimes don't show up on the scoreboard because I missed the net or maybe my shot gets blocked. So that's something moving forward that I really need to improve. And I think just the summer will help a lot with that. And moving in next season, something that I can implement my game. Just getting stronger also, gaining some weight. That's going to help a lot with confidence also. So yeah, those are the 2 things I think I'm going to try to improve this summer.
I want to ask you, how big is this upcoming summer for you? Because I talked to Chris Clark and he said, I think you're staying at Providence this summer, which will obviously be big for your development when it comes to spending time in the weight room and working on some of those skills that you mentioned right there. How big is this summer going to be for you? Is it the most important of your hockey career so far? Because like I said, you've had a great freshman season, but you think about some of the things you can add to your toolkit here going into your sophomore year, it could be really special next year, right?
Yeah, I think summer, like last summer was the best, the most important summer. This summer is going to be the most important summer. I think you need to keep improving because if you don't, then there's so many good players out there that you're just going to get caught on and you won't make it. So I would say like every summer is the most important summer and just keep improving in those aspects I mentioned earlier. And I think I'm going to be in a great place to succeed in my sophomore year.
All right, tell me about the NHL Draft. Let's go back a little bit to this past summer and being drafted in the 4th round by the Blue Jackets. First off, did you have any idea where you were going to be selected, whether it was 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd round, to the 7th round, anywhere in there? And did you have any clue it was going to be the Blue Jackets?
Honestly, it was kind of hard to say. Like, you look at everybody makes his own ranking and you don't want to look too much at that, but obviously like you're kind of interested. So you look a little bit at that, and I had some like second round, third round, fourth round. Like I was expecting maybe third round, and then obviously you have meetings with team, and I talked to a couple team more. I didn't talk with the Blue Jackets that much, so that was kind of a surprise for me. But obviously, I was really excited and really happy when I got my name called by the Blue Jackets, and it's just like an incredible feeling and a great moment.
What's the process when you get drafted by the Blue Jackets? Because I assume you obviously have some familiarity with the organization just because they're an NHL team, but you're a French-Canadian kid. You probably don't know the most about the Columbus Blue Jackets. So does the research start at that point and you really become, I guess, a fan of the team at that point before you can actually get there?
Yeah, for sure. You go on social media, started following Twitter, Instagram and stuff, and then it's kind of a crazy day. Then you get calls from like Rick Nash and everybody calling you. My parents weren't with me, unfortunately, because I was in the States and they couldn't come because of COVID. So my parents, my aunts, uncle, friends. So it's kind of a crazy day. Just everybody calling you, your phone's blowing up. So I would say like the research on the Columbus like kind of began like a couple of days later when everything settled down a little bit, and just like, oh, now I'm drafted by the Columbus, so let's make this happen. And then you just like start looking up everything about it. So yeah.
Have you kept up with what the Blue Jackets are doing this season now that you've been drafted by the team? I know you're busy with your own season and your schoolwork, but have you kept up with what they're doing?
Oh yeah, I mean I follow them on Twitter, and I go on Twitter a lot, so I see like all the scores and stuff. And obviously I played also with Cole Sillinger a little bit at the U17, and then almost played with him at the U18, but he didn't go because of COVID. But so I know him. I know him a little bit. So obviously talked to him a little bit when he scored his first goal and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And it's got to be fun, right? It's such a young organization right now, and especially when it comes to the D-Corps. There's some guys that you look at and you're like, yeah, I like watching them, and I can take a little bit from their game. I talked to a lot of the young Blue Jackets defensive prospects, and Zach Werenski's the guy. But, you've also got Adam Boquist, Jake Bean, so many young guys, Andrew Peak stepping up. Does that interest you at all?
Oh, yeah. I think that tells us a lot about the team mentality, and they value their young defensemen, and I think that's great to see, and obviously for me keeps me going for sure, and just hoping for a spot in the near future.
Yeah, right. And of course, it's important that, the organization is communicating with you a lot. I think that's one of the most interesting things when it comes to player development is, how often they're in contact with you, who's in contact with you, what they're telling you, things like that. So how has that communication been with you so far?
Oh yeah, it's great. I mean, you talk with Chris Clark. He's been to a lot of the games, like especially recently. He's doing a great job of like reaching out and just like keep myself accountable and just helping me like realize what I need to improve. So that's been great. I've talked to Rick Nash a bunch also, and then I get a call from the assistant athletic trainer like every month to see how my off ice season is going also. So that's for me kind of important also, as much as on the ice stuff. So I think they're doing a really great job, and I need to keep using them to my advantage.
That has to feel good, right? That the Blue Jackets are making you feel like you're a part of the organization, even though you're not there yet. And on top of that, you're talking with former NHL players like Chris Clark and a guy that's a Team Canada legend like Rick Nash. So that has to be pretty cool too, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really fun when you see those guys really involved with you. It kind of just like keeps me like going a little extra harder, and just, I don't know, makes me realize that I'm closer than like I ever dreamed of. So like I just need to work and keep improving, and hopefully I get a chance in the near future.
Guillaume, I appreciate the time. This will be the last thing I ask you. We talk about how important this summer is going to be for you. You said you've got 6 games left this season. What does the future look like for Guillaume Richard? What are you trying to do the rest of this season, and what do you want to do going into this offseason and then your sophomore year?
Well, obviously we have especially the 3 upcoming games are really big for us. we want it, and making the tournament, it's not even a question. We need to make it. So obviously, if we get some wins in the next like 6 games, it would be great. And then we have hockey's playoffs. That's going to be huge also. And then let's see how far we can go in the tournament. And then after that, it's going to be the start of summer for me, going home for about a month, then coming back here, and then just like I said, keep improving, building strength. And then the next season is going to be right at the door, and I'm really excited.
All right, Guillaume, like I said, appreciate the time. Really, really good to get to know you. Good luck the rest of this season and going into the off season. And hopefully I'm talking to you face-to-face in Columbus sooner rather than later.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
So there you see it. You can tell, really mature kid, right? Guillaume Richard is somebody I cannot wait to meet in person in Columbus. Can't wait to see him as a part of the Blue Jackets organization, whether it's in Cleveland or whether it's with the Blue Jackets much sooner rather than later. So again, huge thank you to Guillaume Richard and Providence College for taking time out of his busy schedule there to join us this week on the Pipeline Podcast. But why don't we hear more about Guillaume Richard from the Blue Jackets perspective right now, as we're going to welcome in Blue Jackets Director of Player Personnel, Chris Clark. Guillaume Richard, drafted in the 4th round this summer by the Blue Jackets organization. At that point, what did the team think it was getting in this prospect?
You know, I wasn't sure that much. I didn't hear much about him beforehand. Like I said, 4th round pick, so I was eager to get to know him and get to watch him, and you know, he's turned out to be a really good player for us so far.
What's his game? Because everything that I've heard, really good defensively, but there's some offense in there too.
Yeah, he's a very skilled defenseman with great instincts as a defensive defenseman as well. He's not very big, so looking at him, you wouldn't think that, but you know what? He's actually plus 20 right now, when the second best or the next best is plus 10 on his team. So he's taking care of business defensively. Always in the right spots, always in the great stick. Right, he makes the puck carry go through him. Like I said, he's not very big, 170 pounds or so, 6'1". So he's got that knack for defending. But with the puck, he's actually very good. Makes a really good first pass, gets the pucks out of the zone. Doesn't do too much, but he has the ability to do more. And I know the coaches there are really impressed with everything he's been doing. Is he the type of player that, I mean, he's obviously very young in his hockey career right now, just a freshman at Providence. Is he the type of player that you see him doing all the right things right now? That has to excite you, but is there maybe a next step where, he's going to start doing more, or is his game just being that really calm, cool guy that's going to get it done defensively? No, actually, I think he's got way more potential offensively. And it's a very pro-like system that they play, and they don't give a lot to the young guys. But as he's gone along, they've given him more and more responsibilities. That he's now on the power play, second power play. He's producing on there as well. I saw him a couple weeks ago. He's made an unbelievable seam pass for a backdoor tap in. He sees the ice very well. He's like I said, he's got that mind, and they have the rope on him a little bit, but I think they're going to allow him to do a lot more. But he's not the player that goes above and beyond and tries to do too much, and I think they like that about him, and I think they're just going to let him go a little bit more as he matures. All right, well, you've got me excited about Guillaume Richard, because before we got started, I told you he's one of the few Blue Jackets prospects that I feel like there's not a whole lot of information out there about, so I don't know a whole lot about him, which is why I'm so excited to get to know him and talk to you about him. But, you talk about Guillaume Richard and that coaching staff there, and, Nate Lehman we talked about before we got going. That's a guy that, you said he runs a pro-style system. He could be, the next guy that elevates into the National Hockey League as a head coach. What does he think about Guillaume Richard as a player? Do you know? Yeah, he's been impressed. Every time I talk to him, he said, we give him a little bit more each weekend, and he's been taking it in stride. He's a very smart player, very, very coachable. Does all those things that a coach loves. He can throw him out there in any situation, whether it's at the end of the game to preserve a goal, to get a goal if they need to get back on the board, all those little things. So they're definitely impressed with how he's playing. Well, this sounds like maybe the Blue Jackets found something in the 4th round. Do you think maybe him going in the 4th round is a product of that COVID season where people weren't able to see him as much? I know he played in the USHL, so it was a league that was able to eventually get going, but do you think less eyes on him maybe allowed the Blue Jackets to find him where they did? It could be. We have unbelievable scouting system and scouts out there. So they're finding those later round picks that could pop. And it could have been a COVID thing where not a lot of eyes were on him. Not a lot of Team Canada stuff was going on, so maybe he couldn't shine in those positions. But he definitely will as we go along. He'll be definitely one of the guys that Team Canada is going to keep an eye on.
Obviously, very, very bright. He's, you talked about him already, that he's a guy that gets it done, calm, cool, collected, and a strong player as a freshman at Providence. What are some of the things that he's working on in his game right now?
I think one of the biggest things that he needs to work on, and we talk about this with a lot of 18-year-old, draft picks, is gaining. He's going to be what he is as his size, as his height, but he needs to get stronger, and that's the little things that we've been talking about. Is doing a little bit extra in the weight room. They have a good regimen going there at school, but it's to make sure he's doing it and not slacking on that, which I don't think he is. I think he's going to do everything in his power to get stronger, and it's going to be a huge summer for him as well with that. He'll stay at school during the summer and get stronger that way. But I think that's just the little things that he can do right now.
What's the communication like with Guillaume Richard and I guess the coaching staff at Providence, if there is that communication? How often are you guys talking with him and with Providence, and what are the contents, I guess, of those conversations?
Yeah, usually weekly. If I'm not there, I'll go. I think I've seen them 8 times or so, 6 to 8 times already. But I'll talk to them after the weekend. If I don't see them, I'll talk to them after the weekend, usually Sunday night or Monday, something like that. Give them a couple days to reflect on how his game went, and we just talk about, sometimes I've watched it on video and then I know what's going on. Other times I'll let him tell me what he thinks of his game, and we try to go back and forth a little bit on what I thought and what he thinks. And as a young 18-year-old, he has a really good sense of his game. He knows when he had a bad game or a bad shift, or he'll take it upon himself. He won't blame other people. It's like, yeah, I didn't have it tonight. I don't know what it was, things like that. And it's just little things we'll work through and just talk, and I'll say, hey, you know what, you're going to have those games. It's great to recognize it. What are you going to do differently next time? Things like that. So he's been very receptive. Coaches have been great. Ronnie Rolston, I've known for a little bit. The assistant coach there, I'll call him anytime, and he'll talk about him and other players on the team as well. So the communication there is great.
He sounds mature. You were in the same position as him one time in your NHL, or in your hockey career, I should say, playing college hockey, a freshman in college. Is he mature for where he is right now in his hockey career, do you think?
Absolutely. You don't see 18-year-olds as freshmen anymore. In college hockey, you're 19. Most of the guys are 20 when they're freshmen. So he's doing it as a little bit of an undersized defenseman. So he has to be smart. He's definitely that mature player, mature kid. His grades are great. I got to make sure he can keep up on those, because you don't want to get, with these college guys, if that starts slipping, that gets in their head, and maybe their hockey starts to take a little dip. So make sure we're communicating on that as well. Make sure he's getting his homework done before the weekend, so there's nothing else to think about. But yeah, he's definitely been on it all season.
All right, I always ask you guys this question. Some like to answer, I guess some don't. But does he remind you of anybody past or present in the National Hockey League that maybe you played with, or anybody around the league?
Weirdly enough, his skating style is very similar, and I don't know if I'm the only one that sees it, but Bjorkstrand, which is different positions, but he has a way of going into the corners with the puck or getting the puck and then avoiding hits, just like Bjorky does. He just kind of slinkies his way in and out of a corner, and if he gets hit, he's able to keep his hands free and make a play. So it's weirdly in my head, every time I watch him play, I think of Bjorky.
What's the future look like for Guillaume Richard? Because you mentioned 18 years old, freshman in college hockey right now. That doesn't happen a whole lot, and usually the guys that do will, I don't know if they will stay all 4 years, but they've got pro hockey in the back of their minds, right? 18-year-olds that are freshmen in college. What's the future look like for Guillaume Richard, do you think?
It's up to him. If he keeps on this track, he's going to be a professional, quicker than the 4 years, but you never know. It's whatever path they take, but I think he's going to be a pro no matter how long it takes. So, it's up to him whether it's 4 years or less, but I think it's someone we'll have in our system for a long, long time.
What's something that you want to see him do the rest of this season? You talked about him getting a little bit stronger, which I don't know how much you can do that during the season. Like you said, it's maybe more of an off-season summer thing. But, as it relates to this season and the end of the college year, what do you want to see him do?
It's just that being more forceful in defending. He's, like I said, he's got a great stick on puck, all those little things. As he gets stronger, as he gets a little bigger, he'll start to finish, and ride guys off. And like I said, and similar to how Zach Werenski was in college, and even though he was a 17-year-old freshman, he went even a year earlier than that. But Zach had a great stick, but it's something we always worked on. Now you got to close off. Now you got to finish. So it's something that Guillaume and I will be talking about, is just now you got to stop that puck carrier. Not let alone take the puck, but stop him, get him going, and go the other way.
All right, Chris, that's all I got. Thanks very much as always.
Yep, anytime.
So again, that's Blue Jackets Director of Player Personnel and Cleveland Monsters General Manager Chris Clark. As always, great big thank you to Chris for joining us on the Pipeline Podcast. He has such a terrific perspective on the Blue Jackets organization and great insight into all the Blue Jackets prospects, so it's always a treat for me to catch up with Chris and learn more about these prospects like we were able to do this week with Guillaume Richard. And with that in mind, that'll do it for this week's edition of the Pipeline Podcast. As I thanked Chris, I've also got to say a great big thank you to Guillaume Richard. He took time out of his schedule. He's finishing up his season right now, as you heard, at Providence College, so things are heating up there as they hope for the postseason. So I appreciate the time that he was able to take to join us on the Pipeline Podcast. And also, I'd like to wish Guillaume a happy early birthday. The time of this recording, he's going to be turning 19 in a couple of days on February 10th. So happy early birthday to Guillaume Richard, and good luck the rest of this season. I'd also like to say thank you to you for joining me on the Pipeline Podcast, not this week, but every week. I really, really enjoy learning about different Blue Jackets prospects and sharing that with you, the listener, because that's what this is all about, right? We want to learn about the future of the Columbus Blue Jackets and see what they have to offer going forward. So I like doing that for my own education. It really interests me, but I also really, really enjoy sharing it with you. That's why I do the podcast. So thanks again for listening. Let's do it again soon. Can't wait to talk to you next time.